Book 3. Conditions of Employment. Title 1. Working Conditions and Rest Periods. Chapter 1. Hours of Work. Article 82. Coverage. The provisions of this title shall apply to employees in all establishments and undertakings whether for profit or not, but not to government employees, managerial employees, field personnel, members of the family of the employer who are dependent on him for support, domestic helpers, persons in the personal service of another, and workers who are paid by results as determined by the Secretary of Labor in appropriate regulations. As used herein, managerial employees refer to those whose primary duty consists of the management of the establishment in which they are employed or of a department or subdivision thereof, and to other officers or members of the managerial staff. Field personnel shall refer to non-agricultural employees who regularly perform their duties away from the principal place of business or branch office of the employer and whose actual hours of work in the field cannot be determined with reasonable certainty. Article 83. Normal hours of work. The normal hours of work of any employee shall not exceed 8 hours a day. Health personnel in cities and municipalities with a population of at least 1 million, or in hospitals and clinics with a bed capacity of at least 100, shall hold regular office hours for 8 hours a day, for 5 days a week, exclusive of time for meals, except where the exigencies of the service require that such personnel work for 6 days or 48 hours, in which case, they shall be entitled to an additional compensation of at least 30% of their regular wage for work on the sixth day. For purposes of this article, health personnel shall include resident physicians, nurses, nutritionists, dietitians, pharmacists, social workers, laboratory technicians, paramedical technicians, psychologists, midwives, attendants and all other hospital or clinic personnel. Article 84. Hours worked. Hours worked shall include, a. all time during which an employee is required to be on duty or to be at a prescribed workplace, and, b. all time during which an employee is suffered or permitted to work. Rest periods of short duration during working hours shall be counted as hours worked. Article 85. Meal periods. Subject to such regulations as the Secretary of Labor may prescribe, it shall be the duty of every employer to give his employees not less than 60 minutes time off for their regular meals. Article 86. Night shift differential. Every employee shall be paid a night shift differential of not less than 10% of his regular wage for each hour of work performed between 10 o'clock in the evening and 6 o'clock in the morning. Article 87. Overtime work. Work may be performed beyond 8 hours a day provided that the employee is paid for the overtime work, an additional compensation equivalent to his regular wage plus at least 25% thereof. Work performed beyond 8 hours on a holiday or rest day shall be paid an additional compensation equivalent to the rate of the first 8 hours on a holiday or rest day plus at least 30% thereof. Article 88. Undertime not offset by overtime. Undertime work on any particular day shall not be offset by overtime work on any other day. Permission given to the employee to go on leave on some other day of the week shall not exempt the employer from paying the additional compensation required in this chapter. Article 89. Emergency overtime work. Any employee may be required by the employer to perform overtime work in any of the following cases. When the country is at war or when any other national or local emergency has been declared by the National Assembly or the Chief Executive. When it is necessary to prevent loss of life or property or in case of imminent danger to public safety due to an actual or impending emergency in the locality caused by serious accidents, fire, flood, typhoon, earthquake, epidemic, or other disaster or calamity. When there is urgent work to be performed on machines, installations, or equipment, in order to avoid serious loss or damage to the employer or some other cause of similar nature. When the work is necessary to prevent loss or damage to perishable goods, and where the completion or continuation of the work started before the 8th hour is necessary to prevent serious obstruction or prejudice to the business or operations of the employer. Any employee required to render overtime work under this article shall be paid the additional compensation required in this chapter. Article 90. Computation of additional compensation. For purposes of computing overtime and other additional remuneration as required by this chapter, the regular wage of an employee shall include the cash wage only, without deduction on account of facilities provided by the employer.